Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I want to talk about at least what I believe what one should do in life when they're younger. And the thing about it is, it would be hard to think, and might even be preposterous to think, well, how can I really mentor anyone or state what should be done at a younger age, given where I'm at in my life, almost 50 years old, and really not an overabundance of things to really show for it. But I will say what's happened with me. I actually know now what should have been done when I was younger based on where I'm at now, because I think if I had done certain things which I didn't do, I would be in a much better life situation, I believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to state what maybe based on the actions I didn't take that put me in a situation where I'm at now. Unfortunately, I know what actions actually should be taken, or the ones that I shouldn't, the ones that I actually didn't take when I was younger, actually. So anyway, well, I mean, the main thing I do encourage others to do is to further your education when you're younger. If you even have an opportunity and you're like you've got a family business or something, I mean, I never had that opportunity. I'm just throwing this out there. Family business, you could be part of something which can put you in a good life situation, if you can give you certain prosperity and something where you can have financial stability. Now, I'm not saying, well, you got to do something where you have to make an abundance of money and have all these monetary riches, not at all. But what I mean is, I'm just talking about being stable financially and being able to have the proper life situation for yourself, and be able to attract, I mean, for men out there, attract the right women. It really, the thing about it is, and of course the opposite would be true for women. Just basically attract the right significant others is what I'm saying. Because I want to be fair to all, sexual preferences, of course, out there. But what I'm saying is, thing about this is, and most of you, a lot of what I'm going to say, most of you may already know, but there may be a small percentage out there that may not be cognizant of everything I'm going to be saying. But so here's something. Well, when you're, the thing about it is, you hit like, 20 years old, right? You might be a couple years out of high school, around there. You think you got the whole, you think life's going to go on forever. You think you're going to live. Yeah, you act like you're going to live forever. You feel like it's so many years in front of me. Well, the thing about it is, now I'm almost 50 years old. I could tell you one thing from my experience is that, once you hit 2025, the years seem like they're on an accelerated button. The thing about it is, some of you may not see it at this vantage point of perspective, but others may understand this. What happens is, every year that you live seems to, in our minds, it actually goes by slightly faster than the previous one. Because the year that we live, let's say the 1 year we live in contrast to the previous year represents a smaller fraction or percentage of life that was lived in contrast to that previous year. It's like if you live, say the time, okay, here's a good example, I think. The time you live from the age of 5 to the age of 6, that represents 1/6 of your existence at that point. The time you live from age 23 to 24 represents 1/24 of your life. So literally, you do the math. That's basically from the time you live, from that 24th year of existence in contrast to the 6th year of existence, that 24th year may have gone by in your mind 4 times as quick as the year as from age 5 to 6. Because the age of 24 is, of course, 4 times greater than the age of 6. A year essentially is nothing. Once you hit about 25 or so people, the young people, the few young people that might see is the ones that are like, especially like 20 and under. I want to tell you right now, when you hit 20, 25, the years are going to go by like virtually nothing. So the point being, if you have an opportunity when you're younger, it's imperative to get further your education if you can. Get some, whether it's you go to college or you're going, or maybe get a trade of some kind. And the thing too about it is as well, also what's imperative when you're younger, I mean, it's not just, I mean, when I was, well, first of all, to go back to, being about the higher education thing now. My grandparents, God rest their souls, they love me to death. Somebody told me one time, said, Eddie, your grandparents aren't going to live forever, She even preached to me. She said it to me not to be malicious or mean, but she was just being direct. I mean, this was in New York. I understand how people are. They speak, the veritable truth. You know how it goes. People that are in the Northeast sector of the United States understand this. She said to me, Eddie, you should be taking care of them. They should not even be worried to have to do that for you, whatever they're doing for you, Sadly, I look back in retrospect, and, that was true. I mean, I lived a number of years with my grandparents in New York. I had slept in their basement, admittedly. And I'd say over half the time I was there, I admittedly did not pay them any rent or anything. And, I had looked back on that, and we really got to cherish those moments because, we become complacent, I think, at times, and take certain life situations for granted. And I mean, I really had it made there. I mean, my life was dominated by leisure activities for a good part of the time. I used to work out vigorously. I had all the time in the world to work out. I played basketball. I ran. I did a lot of, leisurely activities. And where at that time, what should have been done is I should have had gone through maybe some kind of vocational training or what have you, or higher education. And it just I did not do it. I was somewhat apathetic at the time. And the reality, which of course bites in many instances, mine does. Now I look at myself, and I'll say this right here, and some people can't understand why sometimes I'll go into maybe some grave detail about some private matters of myself. You want to know why? It's because I simply don't care about certain things with someone. If I decide to divulge or disclose certain things, it's my own thing. And I don't worry. I mean, whether for me to state certain things, I think, of course, before I say things that could be seen by whoever on the internet. If it's something that I feel is so strongly private, I'm not going to divulge, or something I don't want released for whatever reason, I'm not going to talk about it. But I talk about these certain things, people, a lot of times because I want it to be a lesson to others out there for what maybe not to do in life, that there's often repercussions from non-actions. What happened with me when I was younger, it wasn't really so much about the actions that I took that have been to my detriment at this point, that where I'm facing repercussions at this point in time. It's the non-actions. It was from not being assertive, not being aggressive enough in certain areas of my life, and not doing the things to have maybe a foundation, if you will, or to have something where I could have more than just basic subsistence, where I can have a significant other, I could have an actual home. And it really hasn't really sunk into me maybe until the last few years. When I look at myself, I'll be 48 years old in July, and I'll be obviously pushing 50 years old, not to be overly redundant about this. But people, time flies when you're having fun, unfortunately, and even when you're not, right? I'm a classic example. And I look at myself, I'll see people driving around, they'll have their girlfriend in their arms, and I know a lot of these people, they got good vehicles, they probably got a nice home. And not to be overly indignant or anything, but just being factual, I'm very envious at times. I don't think I'm jealous, because jealous involves obviously animosity and hatred toward those people. But I am saddened when I see this. When I see people that have these things, it's just a reflection of what I don't have, unfortunately. Now, this isn't so much about telling a sob story to get, pity votes and get people to empathize with me and show sympathy, because that doesn't change anything. But what I would like to do is tell people that, I look at myself now. If I had capitalized on the opportunity, and say I stuck it out and I was able to mentally handle whatever it was some electronics or computer thing that I was going to maybe do. I think it was electronics at the time. But anyway, whatever it was, I wish I would have at least given it an opportunity and given myself more of a chance to have a better situation. Now, the reality of my life right now is I'm actually doing worse based on the economy, or I guess you could say the cost of living right now. I'm doing worse now than I was nearly 30 years ago. And that's just the unabashed, unadulterated truth. And the thing is, right now I'm currently at about 20%, I think, what the average income is for an individual in the United States. And when I calculated, I was talking to a close friend of mine, and when I told him what I made, he said that sounded like poverty level, is what he said to me. And when I looked it up on the internet, I think it was very close. It was borderline. I'm either at poverty level or on the cusp of it, one way or the other. I'm close to it. I'm within probably $1,000, give or take, of the poverty level. So I know I'm right. If I'm not at it, I'm pretty darn close to it. So, and what's happened is my life has been basically relegated to basically staying in an office, and that is where my home is right now. My home is not, previously some of you have seen me on my videos, especially the ones on the astrology channel. I guess were the ones I was in the hotel room for some time. Now, admittedly, I was staying in a hotel, which actually was a better situation than where I'm at now. I mean, people talk about, I think there's a misconception about hotels. They say, oh, he's in a cheap hotel. Well, I'll tell you something. Anyone that knows about hotel living, the rates are very exorbitant. There's really nothing cheap about it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least the last I had checked, the average nightly rate for a hotel room in Nashville, Tennessee, that's the highest. I should say, actually, is Nashville, Tennessee, has the highest nightly rate for a hotel room. Now, as far as weekly goes, it may not be the highest, but it's still pretty darn high. In Nashville, the thing about it is the rate. What I was paying over $300 a week in the last time I was at a hotel. And I didn't even think it was really anything superlative or anything to really write home about. But what it is the people know in Nashville, and they understand it's a tourist place. I think here, like a lot of places, as far as hotel living goes, sometimes they capitalize on people's desperation. I think that's part of it. I think they cater to corporate a lot. And they also just flat out, they know that someone's going to pay the extravagant rate. They know someone will pay it, regardless of how outrageous it might seem. I had a friend of mine, he's best of my knowledge, he's a homeless person right now. And he had stated to me that he went to some hotel one day or whatever, and he had said that the gentleman that had worked there, was trying to get him a room for $100 for one night. That's just absolutely ludicrous. That's outrageous. But the point I'm making is, I have been basically the last I would, the last 6 years and 8 years, I've been going back and forth, hotel and then the office thing. And this is just, it really gets monotonous after a while. And this is basically what's happened to me in my life. And another thing, what I encourage people to do, it's not just the higher education or, if you got a business or a family business and you're offered to continue it, do what you can. As long as it's your passion as well. It's one thing, like say if you had the choice, hypothetically, you had a family business you could be with, you can make your money or whatever. But if you had a passion to do something else and it required that you needed to take some college courses, and that was something in your mind that you had the greater need to do that, then by all means, and that's what you're going to do. You have to do, of course, what you have that enthusiasm for. But the point being, just do something which will enhance your chances of having a better life later on. Because now I'm at a point in life where, you hit a certain age. Of course, the older you get, it's harder to find that significant other, that elusive love. You lose your attractiveness. Somebody could say, well, gee, someone had even said to me one time, I said, well, Eddie, beautiful personality lasts forever, even if, whatever, I don't know what the exact words were, but even if the physical appearance deteriorates, well, that's fine and everything. But you still got to have some kind of looks in order to attract that person, at least initially in most cases now. And I just think that's a fact. And, my chances now of finding somebody, given my income and coupled with, not just my stature in life, my income, my age right now, the fact I don't drive. What I want to get at too is that I wound up succumbing to irrevocable damage to my arms. I have extensive nerve damage. I'm unable to operate a motor vehicle, and that has hindered me as well. And it's kind of like, well, what am I going to say to him? And I said, gee, would you like to come back to the office I stay at? It's got very good amenities. Would you like to go there? You can't. What happens is, and I'm not saying that all people are superficial or materialistic, not at all. But the problem in life is, in a lot of cases, you gotta. Well, no, you really should have a good personality, which I feel I do. But you also got to be at a certain stature in life, and you got to be making a certain amount of money, unfortunately, in most instances, to attract the right person. Somebody told me one time, it was interesting, some woman I had corresponded with on Facebook for a little bit, and she had stated, well, you told me about self-love, preaching to me about self-love. Well, that's fine and everything. Then she went on to say that she would like to be, somebody with someone that was at her, near her income level. Now, I don't know if that was necessarily pertaining to me, or she was she might have just been speaking generalities or whatever. But the point being, the person that tells you self-love, okay, then they're saying, well, I'd rather be, I gotta be someone that's got a comparable income level. The thing about it is, you can't even, based on what society dictates, regardless whether you love yourself or not, it's going to be very hard to land that significant other if you're not at a certain level or stature in life. Now, it's better if you can love yourself in the process rather than not. And even if you're at a certain lower level income, that, of course, is better to love yourself than to not love yourself and still be at a lower level income. Granted, that's definitely true. But a lot of times that's easier said than done, people. People can preach that all they want. And a lot of people that will say things like, self-love and preach this, and then they say, well, no one's technically alone. And, a lot of those people, though, do have a significant other, and they have a good monetary situation. They have a very good life in terms of what they have, and, as far as a family and this and that. So another thing that I want to get at too, and this is in addition, this is out of the, as far as the, the going furthering education or doing vocational training for younger people, what I encourage too is that when you're in the in school, and to try, I mean, if you're an introvert, it's hard if you're like, say, like me, I'm a very introverted person, and introspective. I'm not really the most outgoing or gregarious person. When I was in school, I only had a very few friends. Um, and the thing about it was, I didn't have anything like that high school sweetheart like many people talk about. I didn't really have this significant other during that time like a lot of my contemporaries, a lot of my friends did. I honestly did not have that. I honestly did not go. I will tell you right now, I did not even go to the prom. I will say it right now, because I don't really. What have I got? What difference does it make if I say it or not? Um, I'm just telling the truth. And what I'm saying though is the result is, and I'm not saying that alone has put me in a situation now. But the thing is, people, what I'm getting at through a little bit of my Gemini Moon rambling here is that if you're, you've got to really try to be, I mean, if you're an introverted person, it can be very hard to do this. But what I encourage younger people to do, especially like if you're an introspective, introverted person, if you're to yourself, you need, I mean, to try to ingratiate yourself a little bit more. If you're a gregarious person, this obviously doesn't apply to you anyway, but if you're not, and if you're an adult, of course, encourage your children, if you have them, and they're in school, to ingratiate themselves in groups and with others in general, and be more, and try to be, you can't, if somebody's introverted, you can't just, snap your fingers. I don't think you just say, well, gee, be outgoing, be sociable. It doesn't really work like that. It would have to be more of a gradual process, of course. I understand that. But the thing is that encourage them to be more outgoing. And what's happened to me over the years, I become even somewhat reclusive at this point in time. And I mean, for me, that's just the honest truth. I really, at this point in time, I don't have many friends. I guess what I'm saying too is that, if you're a certain way in school, and it's a grade school, junior high, high school, whatever, a lot of times that will carry over. Could be to your detriment. It could be positive depending on how you were back in those days. And the thing was, the reality is, if you're, let's say you're a person and you hit your early 30s, right? And you've got a certain way of being, a certain temperament, personality, and if you're very reserved and introverted, that's probably going to stay with you the rest of your life. And it's not being overly pessimistic or negative. Again, the unadulterated truth. It is what it is. So the thing about it is try to be, as outgoing as you can, I guess. And that will follow you later on in life, and it can be more beneficial to you. What's happened now is I've reached a point in time where I'm not going to say, well, I'm just going to give up completely and just not ever do anything with myself. But I think at this point in time, I've really come to the realization of where I'm at. It's not good. I don't wish this hardly on anybody in my situation in life. I'm able to get up in the morning, I subsist and survive, I get clean, I do what I have to do, right? But other than that, I'm not really doing, admittingly, a whole lot else. And I just want to encourage others out there to try to to capitalize on opportunities that they have later on. Because if you don't, this is something where you could really feel ramifications and repercussions well into your adulthood and really into your older age, and it's just not something that you really want to happen. And on top of it, as I stated before, I have this certain injuries. I have at this point in time, irrevocable nerve damage to my arms. I even get other things, like in my ankle, I get a little spastic activity sometimes, and I have been unable to actually work in most jobs because of that. So that's the reality, people, and that's the thing. Reality can bite. It could really hurt you big time. And most of the people in my life, whether it's on social media, the few people I know outside of social media, basically, for all intents and purposes, the ones that were even somewhat close to me have given up on me, and I just have to accept it and understand that. And the thing about it is, sometimes, in like I said, when you're in a certain way of being for a certain time, it's very hard to get out of it. I guess you can call it a rut, if you will, and that is something. It's a lesson, I think, that we all have to understand as people collectively. Kudos to people out there. If you have your life together, you got a nice home and family and whatever, that's good. But the thing about it is, people talk about America being a dream and the American dream and this and that. Well, it's not so much of a dream. If you're at a certain point in life in the United States, it's hard here just like it can be everywhere else. And sadly, I'm in a community where I live right now, Nashville, Tennessee. I remember one time, but this was almost maybe close, maybe 7, 8 years ago, that there was something in some magazine that stated that, or newspaper that stated that Nashville, Tennessee looks down on marginalized society more so than any other, at least major city, I guess it stated, and it doesn't really surprise me. I've lived here, and I don't encourage anybody to come to this city, not at all. We're about top 6% in the nation, I think, in crime as well. So, and that's a thing too. And the problem too is you reach a certain stature in life, a certain point, and if you sometimes, if you're like me, you try to ask people for help, and it basically for not for everyone, but for the most part, falls on deaf ears, and people don't want to be bothered. Well, I understand that. There's no law stipulation that says you got to help somebody out. The thing about it is, though, the only thing I could say to that is that those people that do that, though, that want to be oblivious to someone in their time of need, that something like that could happen to them as well. I mean, just because of someone, if you have prosperity and you're flourishing right now, doesn't mean it couldn't be taken away somehow. So it's just something to remember. And anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube segment as far as what to do early on in life. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.